to the neon lights. Let's take a ride into the grid where the future is alive. We're talking about the Web3 revolution, energy systems and a deep net evolution, yeah. It's a digital symphony, a decentralized energy in the world of connection. Oh, so South gives our destination. Web3 fascination. Get ready for the revolution. Here we go.
Welcome to the 15th episode of Source Talk, the podcast where the future of energy unfolds. Source Talk is focused on Web3, Deepin, Srcful, and everything related. And today we have both the CTO and CEO of Srcful with us, Fredrik and Tobias. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you guys?
All good, thank you.
Yeah, same here. Summer in Sweden, finally. That's nice.
Yeah. It goes a little bit of up and down, but today is a beautiful day outside, actually.
And yesterday as well. So I was out kayaking and swimming in the sea yesterday. So perfect day.
So I thought we could go over the usual community update, and then we're going to talk about the main focus of this episode, which is the Helium improvement proposal that both of you have been authoring, or you have authored. But first things first, we've done some changes to our tokenomics, and in addition to that, the beta program that we have right now. Can Fredrik tell us a little bit what we have changed since last time?
Yes, so the beta program that we have been running so far has been a flat reward distribution of 500,000 source tokens for each month and 7 days uptime. And the changes that we are doing now they need to be done because we are in the next phase of the beta phase. So it's just that simple. We now want to prioritize on getting even more uptime. So we want to try out and see so the firmware works as we believe it should work. A lot of the things has been ironed out since the beginning, and things are starting to work more smooth now, I would say, if you agree, Tobias.
Yeah, for sure. I think also it's a slow and steady transition to the actual reward model that we will use in kind of like when we launch this for real. So we need to take this in a couple of steps, I think.
Yeah. So the model is that we have a 10 million tokens per month. And so instead of having a fixed 500K per month and gateway, we will now have 10 million tokens that will be distributed to the beta testers based on uptime. And each day counts. So if you're up all days of the month, you get more rewards than if you're up just a couple of days per month. So we believe that this is more fair when we go into the next phase of the beta phase, because we will reward what matters for us, that is having users online and actually up to date testing the new firmware. I'm not sure if there is too much more to add to this. There might be a slight change in the number of tokens some users will get, but what we have seen so far is that some might get even a little bit more, some might get a little bit less, but we do reward things that matters. That's the more important thing to say.
Yeah, so this will also be better for the users that come in like during the later stage of month of rewards, because we had actually like 4 users last time who got their gateway like 4th of July, I believe, and then we made the payout the 10th. So they didn't get anything because they didn't get the 7 days of uptime. But now, even if you start like the day before payout, you will still get beta rewards. So yeah. I agree on that. It's a lot more fair. That leads us into the gateway situation.
Yeah, before we leave the rewards and the beta token, we should mention that we are going to transition the current token, source token, to be very clear, the Srcful beta token that is on mainnet Solana. So the token that we have now, this will be no more, and we will open up a token on DevNet Solana. We will come out with a separate instruction video on how to transition to this. But essentially, from your user experience, it won't matter anything. You will, like, the tokens that you have now will be, reflected on DevNet as a beta token on DevNet. There are several reasons why we do this that has to do with being able to test out things on chain and not being on the mainnet. Maybe you want to explain more about this, Tobias, or?
Yeah, but no, it's exactly as you say. We will transfer the whole beta stuff to the DevNet because we need to test the on-chain contracts and stuff as we progress. So all of the token distributions will happen on the DevNet, and then we have also carved out a pot for the how this will be transferred to the real energy token if the HIP is approved.
Yeah, but more details, I think, later on. But this will be a very important transition, and we will make sure that hopefully no one is losing out on this information, but it will be important that you actually are doing the transition to the DevNet token, because it will be problems otherwise. So we'll make sure that everyone is on board.
Great. But yeah, like I said, this leads us straight into the gateway situation. We have a lot of users actually, or future users wanting to know about the stock situation because they've been out of stock for a couple of weeks now. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So we the gateways aren't actually out of stock. It's that we don't want to sell them as they are because we want to focus on dual mining. So it has always been the case that this first Solaris batch has been a beta and like the first batch and getting started. So very soon, I better not give a estimate on date here, and Tobias, I see that you're laughing, but I would say that within the next couple of weeks, in that time period, there will be a new announcement on what happens with the next phase of the beta program. And we can at least communicate what we have said so far and like internally, and that is that we're going to open up a small batch of beta testers for dual mining with existing hardware, and then we're going to next phase look at dual mining with even non-existing, like not maybe new hardware from Rock. But that is our focus.
Will this beta program for the dual mining, will that be the Helium Miner version 2 exclusive? Or what happens to the Bobcats and other gateways?
Yeah, the first, what we're going to do is the Rock Wireless. That will be the first one, and that's just out of we can't put development time in all the different models at once. So we focus on one model first, and then we continue on.
Great. And I see that Tobias lost connection, so I'm guessing he's coming back. But yeah, so that's the situation on the gateways. I actually wish that Tobias had stayed, because now we're going to talk about the firmware. But
maybe we can skip and go back. So
yeah. So we can actually go to the main focus of this.
You're back, Tobias.
We can take it now. Let's talk a little bit about the firmware, Tobias.
So what do you want to know?
I want to know. Okay, so version 0.13, I believe it is coming up
Yes,
in
we're
in 2
working on
weeks,
it.
I believe.
I think
3
it's
weeks, maybe.
3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks should be it. We will probably move to Monday releases also, because releasing on Fridays has been good for us. Since we have mainly been able to work on it during weekends also if something goes wrong. But now we are working more full time on this, so we can release on Mondays instead. So I think that will be one change. It's easier to fix things if everyone is at the office, as we can be now. The main focus for the next release will be preparing to add batteries also as a rewardable entity, a DER, distributed energy resource. So that will be a huge thing, actually. So it will probably not be something that you can start using just after the firmware release, because there's stuff to implement in the back end, and there's stuff to implement also in the clients to configure this stuff. But it will be a first step to implement this very important resource for us. It will be, I think, one of the keys to get profit into this network, actually.
So having support for multiple DERs on one gateway, will that also mean that we can use 2 inverters, 2 separate inverters?
Yes, that will be possible.
Great. I also know that we added, or we're adding support for ferroamp, and it was something else, I believe.
I'm not really sure. That's more of David's stuff, what we added exactly.
And we also have one user with a kind of big SMA inverter, and I talked to David. That is also on the way. So for that one user. So what about the scanner? A lot of people have had questions about the scanner. So mainly that it doesn't work. Do you have to select, does the scanner work like if you select Huawei and then run the scanner, will it find any other inverters?
It will find all inverters on a couple of different ports. So it will find basically anything that is responding on these ports. And that's not super intelligent. It would be better if, especially when rescanning, if the scanner could know like the identity of the inverter it actually has connected to. So we are looking into adding that in this new version also, making it a little bit smarter, especially for the reconnect stuff. I think that's a good way to go. Some seem to have several inverters on the same network, and then there could be like the one gateway try to connect to the same inverter that some other gateway already was connected to, and then this often does not work very well. So then we suddenly have 2 gateways offline instead of just one. But yes, we live and we learn. So I think this adding an identity to the inverters will solve this problem.
Great. And now to the main topic of this episode, the HIP. What's going on? Last episode we hadn't actually. It wasn't live. You were working on it hard, but
yeah.
So
a lot of things have happened just the last couple of weeks. So we did release the HIP publicly, and this was actually I need to go to GitHub and look at the commits to get the dates. But if we look at that, we can see that 2 weeks ago, the 3rd of July, we published the HIP, and that was the start. Let's talk more about the HIP, but that was the timeline. We've been working on this in secret, so to say, but we haven't been very public about it. We have hinted a little bit here and there. I think I put out some hints in my Twitter even weeks before on like, yeah, but no one really picked it up, only the insiders that already knew. But we've been working together with the Helium Foundation, so both Abhay and Joey has been part of actually writing this HIP, and we've actually gotten some help also from a lot of people of reviewing the HIP and so before it was published. So I would say, yeah, we have been working on this HIP for quite some time. Really, really good experience, because you need to think back and forth on every little tiny bit and detail, and it's really hard, I would say. So the HIP is more like the master game plan on how Srcful will develop in 30 years, which is, yeah, how can you even do this? But that's at least what we have done. So the HIP is super important. It's for those of you that are not aware of what the HIP is, it's not about hip training and getting strong hips. It's the Helium Improvement Proposal, as you said earlier, Joachim. And this is our proposal to join in and be part of the Helium ecosystem, essentially creating a new sub-network in Helium. And that means that Srcful will be a bit like less branded in the front. We will still be Srcful, but we will be the service provider into the sub-network Helium Energy. So people will rather see this project, the energy project, in the future, if the HIP passes, as Helium Energy, and maybe not know too much about Srcful, because we will more work in the background, and we will be the entity that is, I would say, driving the business with the energy companies, and also will be developing the technology and the whole tech stack. That will be our role. Much the same as Nova Labs is doing for the mobile network, Helium Mobile. So that's the model we're adapting and pushing forward into. Do we need to add something about like the general explanation, Tobias, or?
No, I think it's good, but it's important to realize that this requires compromises from our side. We cannot just do everything in like we have planned to do before. Now we need to like fit into this ecosystem. So we are restricted in some areas, and that can be viewed as, yeah, something negative maybe. But I think the gains that we get in form of experience and acceleration, and not to funding also. We cannot continue doing this on without funding. So I think this partnership with Helium is key in many ways to unlock this and accelerate this to actually be something within maybe, let's say, 6 to 12 months. Maybe we will have something that's actually for real, I would say.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what Helium is and what they do and what their infrastructure looks like, why Helium? What's in it for us?
Yes, that's a very good question. And we've actually gotten that from the community as well. That's Helium started as, I would say, it started first as not a crypto project at all. I think Helium started about 2013, so it's been around for quite some time. And they were doing IoT and wireless technology, and they wanted to put hotspots, gateways in people's homes and create this network of devices. It wasn't until, I think this was 2018 or 2017, maybe even 2019, I might be off on a year or two, but around that time they introduced like this crypto incentive. They used tokens for incentivizing the people that put up these, as they call it, hotspots or gateways for IoT. And this is LoRaWAN, by the way, for those of you that are a little bit more into the IoT area. And that worked really effective. So they run their own blockchain, actually super cool way they started that. They actually had a distributed blockchain running on hundreds of thousands of Raspberry Pis with SD cards and crappy internet connection. And it worked. It didn't work perfectly. It broke down, but that's one really, really cool story. But maybe we shouldn't talk about that too much here. But I absolutely love that. They obviously, they are still, I think, considered by many as the original DeepIn project. What they did was something that proved that this model of incentivizing people for building networks and rewarding them for the network building with tokens actually worked really good. And also linking this to physical infrastructure that has a real economic value and a demand side from the society and companies. I think they sort of made it possible. So they started with IoT, and it was only the HNT, the Helium token, HNT token at that time. Later on, they transitioned to become more of a network of networks. The mobile came in as an addition, so they gone through the IoT network only to mobile and IoT, still both wireless. And then they had these separate networks within the Helium ecosystem. So the Helium token became a governance token, and then IoT and mobile become their utility tokens within the networks. For like we have the mobile network and the IoT network. And this was about a year ago or so. They started talking about that we are now the network of networks. I think sometime a year ago or even more. So it has been in Helium's idea that they wanted to be something more than just an IoT and a mobile, just wireless. So I think we fit quite well into this idea that we can bring in a new network, which is very much alike the wireless networks in many ways. There is a clear demand side. We link physical infrastructure. We can incentivize people with building the network, as this is still a network. You're providing value into a network of devices now connected to the energy grid. So I think that is the story why it made sense for joining in with Helium. And then, as Tobias said earlier, we just do this journey ourselves? Yeah, most likely, and most certainly we can. But we share the values of Helium. That I see that this is the greater good for the Helium ecosystem. I'm also a big believer in Helium, so I've been part of that journey since they started as well. Deployed loads of hotspots and love the idea of this community. So I'm also part of the Helium community. And also acceleration. We are able to tap into a vast number of already existing hardware that is deployed all over the world. With dual mining, this obviously becomes a lot easier if we are part as a subnetwork. Technically, this would be possible even without being part of Helium, but everything is obviously much more easier if we're in the same subnetwork. We have direct access to the foundation and developers, and can integrate this from the base layer, and we don't need to do wonky things on top. And we are able to utilize the Helium wallet app, so the energy token will be reflected in the Helium wallet app, and that is that's worth a lot, I think, for a project like ours to gain traction and also being a legit project from start. And I would say networks and just the branding. We've already seen that we gain a new width of funding and I would say corporate companies that are interested in collaborating as we just merge into something that is bigger than just Srcful. So we bring in value to a bigger ecosystem, and there might be even more reasons, and we could probably spend time talking about this, but I think it makes sense. And we like working with the foundation. When I say the foundation, I mean the Helium Foundation, because it essentially all these kind of like partnerships and so it often boils down to like, do you like the people that you're working with? Do you share the same values? And and we do, yeah. So that's also a very simple answer to a question. We want to have fun when we work, and we want to build with people that have sort of think it's fun to build with. So, and Tobias, I guess you agree as well. So,
yeah, definitely. I think one of the important aspects here is also the trust thing that you mentioned a little bit. Like Helium has been around for several years. They are a trusted entity. As a newcomer, to be able to be part of this is a great benefit, both for the end users and also for the funding part. I think this has also made us think a little bit different about what Srcful will be. You mentioned that we will be like stepping back a little bit, not be this front company, but rather the technology company behind the scenes. And one of the interesting aspects of being a sub-network is that the technology companies are, in essence, should be replaceable. So there can be several technology companies working within the same network. And if one of them does not work out for some reason, others can step in and take that role. And this is a huge benefit for the end users of this, because even if Srcful would fail, the network will still survive, and that's a really really good benefit here, I would say.
Yeah, and that's a really good point.
And also scaling on already deployed gateways. Are there any other benefits of like utilizing their architecture, like the IoT network, for us?
Oh yes, we could probably go into anti-gaming, and Tobias, you could take the lead.
Yeah, but in essence, if we have several networks that can like collaborate on anti-gaming stuff, we will be stronger together compared to everyone doing this on their own. And more specifically, if we do dual mining on the same device, we have, for example, the location is important in the IoT network. The location is important in our network. Of course, we can collaborate to validate this from different aspects. The IoT network, yeah, they can run sensors that we can utilize. And I also think the HIP introduces this as the Helium Foundation as the governing entity for anti-gaming. And that is actually an improvement that we bring to the Helium network as a whole. So the higher level will take the responsibility for the anti-gaming, and then the implementation of this can be pushed out to Srcful, IoT, Nova Labs, or whatever entity comes along here. But in short, for anti-gaming, we have several ideas, some of them linked to the IoT network, mainly the sensors and location parts. And we can use satellite images. Drone images was actually one really cool suggestion from the Helium community. I had not thought about that, and that should be a fruitful thing, getting licensed drone operators to take pictures of solar installations and validating this way. We have lots of ideas of really cross-validation, both within our own network and with the IoT network, so that we can cross-validate data in different ways. So I think we are opening up also for a more solid anti-gaming experience by joining the Helium network, for sure.
Great. And also back to the HIP then. How was it welcomed by the community, like the first version of it? Because there have been a lot of suggestions and commits.
Yeah, I think no one was really prepared on the amount of feedback that we got early on. I think you and I, Tobias, I think we
It was a long day.
It was a long day. It's actually a memorable day because we started, I think it was 5:30 in the morning, 5:30 a.m. Very early, just to sort of be in the same time as it was late in the west coast of the US. And then pushed the HIP maybe a couple of hours that morning. And then when it was up, the traffic started flowing in on the Helium HIP channel. And then we had AMAs during the day. And so it was a really long day, super fun. And I would say there were a couple of naysayers that more or less tried to see every little thing that they didn't like, and it didn't matter, even if it, I guess it wouldn't have mattered, whatever. That's the feeling I get. But we also, very few, I would say, so I wouldn't say that they reflect the community. In general, the community seems to be very positive. That's the general feeling that we have, even though it's very easy to sort of lock on to the naysayers. But there are, as I see it, just a very, very few, less than I can say, but like count on my hand, that has been seen. But we have done some, I would say, significant changes. We already knew this because when we released the HIP, a lot of the things that were written in the HIP was, let's see how the community reacts and then we'll adapt, because we don't know the answer. So this is also like one way for us to get a HIP that is as good as possible is to get this feedback from the community. That's the value of it. It's like having a peer review together with a lot of people that sort of tries to take every little bit and piece apart. They check every little calculation and formula and every little comma or whatever. It's a little bit scary, but it's also super fun, and it makes it all so much better. So I would say what we have done, like internally, is that we have taken notes of every single feedback. So we have a document where all feedback is summarized from each comment that is made. Some of these are clustered together from a conversation because it could be a little bit vague. And then we have worked our way through this, I would say, in an effective manner, but still not rushing. So the first couple of days, we didn't do any changes at all. And then you and I, Tobias, we spent actually a full week in San Francisco together with the foundation, Helium Foundation, and actually went through a lot of these high-level and low-level changes to the HIP. So there is a separate recording that I did. It was now more than a week ago, when I summarized all the different changes that we have made. But from a very high level overview, what we have made is, one change was more about changing things that were like wrong, like capitalization and V energy and VHNT, like I would say formatting and just clarifying a small details, just making it more clear. And then there was yet another change that went in and put in a 36-month emission for investors and founders pool. We removed the stub period and we also do halvings every 2 years, not aligned with H&T. And I think that the next push that we did was adding a little bit more about anti-gaming measures. One really good outcome of this was discussing anti-gaming with the community. And I think that this is the first, maybe we should go into the anti-gaming a little bit more when we speak about the HIP, because Tobias, what I'm thinking about is that the first threshold of anti-gaming is if it's not like economically viable to sort of game the system, like that's the first threshold. So the first threshold isn't actually a technical measure, it's an economic measure. And that is now, I would say, nailed down very good in the HIP, I would say. Maybe you could go into the multiplier and the, I would say, sign-up fees and all that. Because
Yeah.
I think you've been the brain behind most of these changes, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we have made a lot of changes in the tokenomics area in general. We had like a lot of ideas that we put forth, and they were simplified / shot down in different ways, and we kind of like adapted to that. And one of these things was that I think it was a person from the Helium Foundation that actually took a look at the baseline rewards, as we call them, where you get rewarded for just participating in the network. You send data to us and you get these baseline rewards. So we had a score calculation for this, and basically he put on the gamer hat and said, well, I will maximize this score quite easily because it's I will send you perfect data because I will just simulate this inverter data and it will be perfect data all the time. So I will get the max reward here. And that is, of course, not a good thing. So instead, we opted for changing the baseline rewards so that you will need to be validated to become to get good rewards. If you're not validated, you will still get some rewards, but to get good rewards, you need to be validated. So this links into the different onboarding fees that we have. So we will have basically 2 types of onboarding fees, and that's to onboard the gateway, and this will be paid in data credit tokens that is used in the Helium network. We don't need to discuss that maybe in depth, but that's a way of paying for stuff in the Helium network. So you will have to pay a little bit. I think it's $10, right?
Yes.
Worth of data credits. And then for every distributed energy resource you want to add, you pay a fee in energy. So you need
$20.
$20 worth of energy tokens. So basically you need to pay $30 to be part of the network in total. And this puts a threshold, of course, because if you want to game this, you want to see your money back as fast as possible. You want to make a profit from gaming. That's why you game stuff. It's not for the fun of it. It's for making a profit. And the tokenomics, as they look now, it will be very hard to gain those $30 back before you are validated. And when you are validated, you actually stake more energy based on the resources that you need. So you risk more if you are a gamer in this way. And these resources may get slashed if you cannot be validated. For some reason, there is something weird going on with your data. And having these resources also makes it possible for us to put more resources into the anti-gaming measures, because we then know who wants to be validated and we can focus the efforts on them. So I think that's kind of like the the first layer of defense, so to speak, for the anti-gamers, that everyone needs to pay up a little bit upfront. And if you want to be validated, you need to stake more energy tokens. If you are not a gamer, this will not be a problem. If you unstake, you will simply get these tokens back. But if you are a gamer, you risk more. You risk losing these tokens if we catch you gaming the system, simply. So that's kind of like the tokenomic perspective of anti-gaming. And this was really not something that we had thought about before joining up with the Helium folks. I would say that we had a little bit of a naive approach to this. So I think they have a lot more experience in this area than we do. So that's getting these things better and more correct from the start is a great benefit.
Yeah, and I actually would think that the model that it will be super interesting to see how this will fly in production, so to say, because we don't know. But I believe that this model, as we have developed it, it's a lot of ideas from previous projects, a lot of discussions, and this is something new. Like in the world of DeepIn and in the world of like the area where we are, I think we're doing some innovation here. I don't think we definitely are, I would say. So we'll see how this flies, but I have a very good feeling on the outcome of just the tokenomics part of the first layer of anti-gaming, which we don't see in a lot of other projects. It's often just the technical layer, and I think the combination is a good way of doing this, and also that you risk, like we want to reward those that are playing a fair game, and that's in the best interest of everyone. So because a network with gamers isn't a good network, that actually destroys the value for even the gamers, so to say. So it's a little bit of game theory here involved.
Yeah, I think that the network, it needs definitely to be as trusted as possible for us to be able to make business in kind of like the other end, on the demand side. If the network cannot be trusted, if it's 90% gamed entities, we cannot be trusted for this control part that will be driving the value of the network.
Yeah, and then it won't be super fun for gamers to try to game the system because there wouldn't be a value in the network. So that's also an effective way of doing anti-gaming.
Yeah.
But that's not what we aim to do. So we aim to build a network that is trusted, and we aim to have a really high level on the verification and validation. And we do have loads of ideas, but we have loads of implementation to do, I would say. So, but we will most likely talk hours and hours in future podcasts about this, but read the HIP if you are into this kind of stuff and want to dive deeper. And also, if you believe that you have some input on this particular topic, please share. Please do.
Previously, we've made some minor changes to our tokenomics model that we've had up until the HIP. We had 60% rewards back to the community and things like that. Speaking generally, does it look anything like our old tokenomics model, or has it been like fully revamped?
It's better for the community now.
Yeah, in general, I think kind of like the general gist of it is basically the same. I think it's 15% for the baseline rewards and 45% that is aimed towards service rewards. So there we have 60% again. So kind of like from the really, really high level, it's the same kind of like share of things. Entering the Helium network, there are other entities that also need to be rewarded. We have these, what is called oracles, for example, that will take off-chain data and put them on-chain, they need to have rewards. We have the what's it called, the foundation itself. It's called something special in the HIP. I don't have it in my head right now. They need to get some rewards, and that's basically a contingency fund to be able to make special funding if things go wrong, so to say. So it's like an insurance fee, basically. We also have a pot for the sensors and support. This is maybe also something that is actually for the community. So one could say that it's like 65% for the community now, because you will be able to run, if you don't have solar or batteries yourself, you can run sensors that support the network, and there is a special carve out for this. So I would say it's in general the same thing that we wanted to do, but the details have changed a lot. There is like an economic ecosystem that we now need to fit into, that Helium already has decided upon. This is how things are supposed to work in the Helium network, and we of course need to adapt towards that. This $10 onboarding fee is, for example, such a thing. We did not really want that, but it's basically necessary as the Helium economic system now works at this point. So that's kind of like changes that we have been required to make, really, for this to work. So you give some and you take some, but in general, I would say the idea stands as we had it.
Yeah.
And then also, like wrapping this thing up, I know a lot of our users at least want to know when this is being voted.
Then vote.
Then vote. The process is that the community sort of is the ones that like, and who is the community? The voting decides sort of in collaboration with the community, because this is a community vote. So I think that the answer to this is that when things are clear enough in the HIP, so there are like, we see that the questions sort of are no more. We've already sort of made adaptations to whatever changes or not changes that we want to make, but at least that the HIP is clear in its format to be able to vote on. Then the community can, then it can be voted on. I believe that we will aim for having the vote in August. I would like it to be in early August. So I would like it to start the 10th of August. That's a date where I would see optimal. But during August, absolutely, I would say.
Cool. And I would also say that if you want to vote on this, you can make your voices heard also, because this is also a cool thing about the Helium ecosystem, is that the people are kind of like, it's more of a democratic process to changing the networks. The network is not like owned by Srcful or owned by Helium. It's a process where the users of the network vote on different proposals to improve them. And you can also vote. So you can get some HNT tokens, and then you can be part of the voting process.
Yeah.
So that's not, don't forget that you guys can also be part of this if you want to.
Yeah, and there are some effective ways of multiplying your vote power. So I think if you buy some HNT tokens and then you stake them for a certain amount of time, you get a multiplier on the voting power. And that multiplier could be up to 100x, I think. So I'm just saying, even a smaller amount of HNT tokens can matter if you are willing to have them locked in for, is it 2 years maximum or something like that? But yeah, you will see. But we will, when the voting starts or in near time, we will actually do a separate video on maybe how to vote for our project. It's fairly simple, I would say. So, and everything is Solana. So all of those that are into Srcful already have the wallet and everything that is required for this as well. So no new software, no new anything. You can just use the same.
Cool. And of course, we want you to vote for the suggestion, but you are free to vote as you please. If you don't think this is a good idea, you can vote to say nay.
Yeah, but we believe it's a good thing, so please. Please vote.
We would rather have feedback than naysayers.
Yeah,
Indeed. And that's also a thing. You can join into the Helium Discord and make your voice heard there also to make the proposal better, or you can use our Discord also, I think.
And we will drop a link in the description to this video.
Yep.
Do you have anything else to say about the HIP?
It's not the end of the story, I would say. So the HIP is just the beginning of the network.
Yeah.
Like how we see it now. There will be HIPs to change things, and there will be HIPs to make things better. So it's kind of like the end of the start of things, really. There will much likely, if it's approved, there will much likely be a working group, like for our network that will kind of like gather feedback and make these proposals for change.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting way of, I think, improving collaboratively and in a more democratic way than just one entity running everything and deciding everything.
Great. Also, I believe that's a wrap, but there will be a lot of announcements coming up. There are actually a lot of things going on behind the scenes as well. So stay tuned for that. And with that, our catchphrase: your energy, your power.
your power.
Step into the neon lights. Let's take a ride into the gray where the future is alive. We're talking about